Okay, with winning screenwriter Wesley Stephen Drent, Necrotica is the horror script. It's I guess a zombie apocalypse, but it's a twist on the or kind of a new kind of realm on the zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going for. I the zombie apocalypse genre is uh, not just one of my personal favorites, but I think is uh, sacred, just as kind of a cultural thing for us. Like everybody likes zombie movies, and we've seen a bunch of them, but it's as much a sacred genre as it is rather tired.
Sure.
I think we've seen
Overdone.
yeah overdone, and no real new ground has been broken in that space. I felt like, I mean, I still love watching them, but I just wanted something more, and that's what Necrotica seeks to do, kind of flip the genre on its head and give us something new, explore the premise in a deeper way. uh I don't want to I don't know if I like how many spoilers I should like give, but I feel like I should just go for it.
Go for it. Yeah.
So in most zombie stories, it usually starts at the very beginning, or very recently after the apocalypse has started,
Yeah.
and everyone's trying to figure out, what the hell is going on, how do zombies work, and while we all understand the general rules of zombies, like you got to shoot them in the head. If you get bit, you're going to turn into one, that sort of thing. But the explanation always kind of ends and then rests on it's a virus. And that has kind of never quite worked for me. Like that's where you have to kind of suspend your disbelief twice, right? Because what kind of virus can animate rotten, decomposing flesh, right? Like with no blood pumping to muscles or the eyes or the brain or anything like that. How can something move around and do anything, even if it's something mindless and simple like shamble around and eat whatever you see? Um, so I wanted to explore that further. If it is a virus, well, then that's a magic virus. And if it's a magic virus, like if it's magic, it's black magic, and any grimoires strong enough to reanimate the dead have got to be able to do something much much worse once they've consolidated power. So Necrotica is kind of like exploring phase two of the apocalypse. Like, the zombies destroy the planet, ruin society. Then what? What comes next? And that's what I'm kind of trying to explore with this thing.
So what? Yeah. So 6 years after the apocalypse in your script, and then so obviously most of the planet is dead. Let's say 99%, and then there's the few survivals, right? Like so, and then the main character is like she wants to die, obviously, right?
Right. It opens with her burying her husband, her partner.
Yeah.
That's There were just a group of two. There aren't that many people. They were just surviving on their own.
Yeah.
So we open with her, facing, kind of her final loss. What else is there to live for in this world at this point? So she's really struggling, like searching for meaning. Uh, and she reluctantly takes in a very traumatized orphan child who's, she runs into him, and they're on the run, and she takes her in, and that kind of gives her, something to just keep going.
Something to live for, right? So yeah.
Yeah, and it opens up after her farm that they've been surviving on has been under siege, so all of her perimeter defenses are severely compromised and stuff like that, and now she's got to mend fences both literally and figuratively with the only other living person that she knows, who's her pretty psychotic survivalist nut job brother. Um, bring him back into the fold so they can survive. And I'm going for themes of, you know grief, finding meaning in the face of overwhelming loss, family, and survival.
Gotcha. And you also kind of pointed out in the blog interview that I like the story you talked about your sister, how your sister wanted your sister was like, there's not enough, and I've heard this time and time again as well.
Yeah, we all have, right? You know,
I just want to make sure everybody knows. So it's the representation of the horror kind of sci-fi action space. There's not really many female leads, I guess. And you used the example of Ripley in the Alien franchise, but that's the exception, not the rule, I guess, right?
right. And at the time, this was an argument my little sister and I had, you know, probably like a decade ago. You know, and exactly like you said, we were debating uh, the portrayal and representation of women in action, horror, sci-fi. And my sister's an actress and a published playwright. She's brilliant. She's my muse, and it was actually my script doctor, like my kind of one person workshop as I worked on this script, because they knew I was kind of writing it for them. Um, and I, at the time, you know, I was really resting on Ripley's laurels. Lieutenant Ellen Ripley from the Alien franchise.
Yeah.
I watched that movie when I was 5, and it changed my life
You watched
forever.
it when you were 5. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, my parents let me watch it, the whole trilogy, when I was like, the first one didn't scare me. I thought it was the coolest. So then they were like, all right, well, let's let them watch the next one, and then it just snowballed from there. Um, it's funny. I thought Alien was cool, but at the same age, I cried like a baby when uh, the horse in Neverending Story died. So uh, wrap your head around that.
Okay.
But you know, my sister Estelle was right. Ripley, you know, was my paragon of female badassery in the sci-fi horror action space.
Yeah.
But she was right. She, you know, Ripley really is. You know, she's as much of an exception as she is a paragon. And you know, my sister didn't play video games and stuff, so I, you know, couldn't convince her with examples from there. But you know, I was always interested in screenwriting. I was, you know, I always liked telling stories and stuff like that. And in our argument, uh, finally, she, you know, she got a little frustrated and yelled at me. Well, then you fucking make one if you know what it looks like so good, you know. And
Yeah.
uh, so I did. Um, it wouldn't have happened without her. Like I said, she's my muse. But yeah, I really, you know, much has been said about writing women and you know, particularly like men trying to write women.
Yeah.
And I've always thought to myself, you know, what's the big deal? Like, why should that be such a challenge? uh you know, and like, how do so many people get it wrong? And I think that's because for whoever they're workshopping with, like anyone writing something long should be getting feedback as they go, especially from one draft to the next. And I feel like people aren't asking women what they think about like how their character is working out and
Yeah.
stuff. But also, you know, and this might sound kind of flippant or stupid, but I just view it as just write them like anyone else. Like they're just people all the same. Like there shouldn't really be that much of
Yeah.
a big difference. Like what one person does, like what a man would do in a violent survival like zombie situation, why wouldn't a woman do exactly the same thing? The same, like, the same right action is going to work the same way regardless of who's doing it. You know, so I tried to yeah, I just she's just a person like anyone else, and that works.
So, but then in terms of this script, she's well, literally in survival mode, and so she's just reacting to what the world is giving her, right? So, and then she's taking care of somebody as well, and then
Yeah,
we get to know that relationship as well. But at the same time, it's like she's just like a human being does, like she needs to survive, and there's a goal, and basically how do we get to that? How do we achieve that goal? That's her arc, I guess, right?
Right. And she had, she starts out as very, she's just suffered a loss, and we're late into the apocalypse. So she's
Yeah.
tired and haggard and, cold and embittered, right? Like she's very uncompromising. Like if like when she runs into reavers, uh, or bandits on the road, once things start to get tense, she doesn't really feel like having a conversation about it. Like, just kill these people
Mhm.
wordlessly, because like that's just the world she lives in, and that's her the math in her head that she did for what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Uh, and when she does reunite with her brother, uh, that's a very tense relationship. Uh, and I wanted her to, like, she needs help. Like no one can do everything all on your own, right? And she's kind of suicidal and stuff. But that's because she is alone.
I think anybody would be suicidal. Like it's like,
Right? Like,
well, I think that's what it comes down to is like are we like kind of like the animals where like they're in survival mode all the time? But do humans still have that instinct, right? The
right. And
psychology of the human nature, like do we,
people need people.
yeah.
We
Or
we
do we
we
need to do, or we need to just survive, right? So you kind of alluded to Walking Dead. It's a different
right.
show, but I thought when it's at its best, it's like it's when it's talking about those kind of like human
Yeah.
emotions, right?
I always loved The Walking Dead. I actually bought the very first printing of the first issue, like the first single issue, way back in I don't know, like 2005 or something like that. Um, and I loved The Walking Dead. It turned into a total soap opera, but
Or
what,
is
like,
yeah, yeah,
little things like that, like little details, and I'll use Walking Dead as an example in zombie movies or just apocalypse movies, drive me absolutely bonkers. And I wanted to go for something. We're in this fantastical horror universe, but I wanted to inject as much realism as possible. For example, and I feel like a lot of people either don't know this or just kind of take it for granted, especially in these kind of movies. Gasoline goes bad, right? Like if
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
if you siphon gas out of a car that's been sitting there abandoned for a year, it's not going to work in your car. It went bad. Like it's still flammable, sure, but even with like specially treated diesel fuel, you've only got a matter of months. And in The Walking Dead, like years into the apocalypse, they're still all siphoning gas and driving around everywhere. And uh, like someone's like, they're going through an abandoned neighborhood, and it's like, who's cutting the grass in these neighborhoods if everyone's dead?
yeah,
Right. So that's like, just the devil's in the details in the script. Like, we
yeah,
kind of open
yeah,
up with talking about like this last compound that actually had a lot of people living in it, has been overrun. We don't see it. It's referenced, but it's called the refinery. And the first people that Sophie, our protagonist,
mm,
meets are these, Reaver bandit types who lived at that place and got out while the getting was good. And they're telling her, like, listen, this is the last gas. It's the
yeah,
last gas. And then later they're talking about, how their gas is going to go bad, and they need to use it while they still can to punch out, as far as possible, to scavenge, whatever supplies they can while they can, because they know that's a tool that they're just not going to have anymore. And they're talking about finding more solar panels and good batteries and stuff like that. But yeah, not a lot of power and not a lot of automobile
yeah.
motion in the apocalypse.
I got a strange question to ask you. What and if there's a zombie apocalypse, what happens to the animals? Do they like it? Do they like it better than the humans?
I guess it depends on the animals.
No, I mean like the wild animals. I'm kind of like reference like birds and yeah.
uh, that's an interesting question for this one, because I feel like in a like Walking Dead apocalypse, I would say that the animals do like it because, like, birds can fly away from zombies, right? Like, it's going to be difficult for zombies to catch.
They don't got any artificial light anymore. They probably like it better.
Right, exactly. Light pollution is gone.
Yeah,
Pesticides aren't getting sprayed anymore. All the car exhaust isn't a problem. Like,
yeah.
the ecosystem for the whole world should really improve quite a bit. And Max Brooks talked about that in his book World War Z, about like, you could see the stars again suddenly, and there's all this wildlife, right? Like bison returning to the plains and things
Yeah.
like. Um, in my screenplay, I kind of explore that, but uh, the like kind of a backdrop, like I try to be very subtle with it. But the ecosystem, the environment, like the nature around them, is slowly becoming corrupted. It's slowly getting weird. Like when she's hunting that deer, and she's aiming at it, she's lining up her shot, and then the deer turns to reveal that it has a fifth mutant leg hanging off its hindquarters. Like just stuff like that, like weird stuff like that. Bleeding trees. Later, they find like a creek that's no longer water. It's like a viscous black fluid that seems to like react to their movements if they get close. And I'm just trying to paint a picture of, like zombies are magic. Zombies are magic, right? But we've never gotten deep enough into the zombie apocalypse, because we're usually seeing a story about the first 1, 2, 3, like six, maybe even 6 years of the apocalypse, but not beyond that. And it's magic. It's phase 2. It's got to escalate. And
Yeah. Well, I guess in The Walking Dead, it's like because I think they're like it's about they're de-evolving, so it's about humans against they're becoming animals, so they're fighting against each other, right? That's the show.
yeah, the Walking Dead story kind of it moves past the zombie threat and enters the human threat, and the
Yeah.
zombies become less of the antagonist in the story, and more of just a standing hazard.
Yeah,
That's
it's the new world, right? Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's something kind of similar happens in Necrotica, in that uh, about halfway through we start to realize, like, ooh, zombies are the least of these people's concerns. And at first, you know, our protagonist Sophie is thinking, we've got to worry about reavers, and if this large compound, that's not too far away, fell, survivors are going to be desperate and moving around. There are dangerous people out here. But as weird shit starts to happen, like, she's thinking that it's something we've seen before in other zombie apocalypse movies, like weird, like people just getting into weird shit who've totally lost themselves. Maybe they formed some weird new religion, but like they're not surviving normally. They're doing weird stuff, and they're starting to fuck with her. uh and she's kind of right.
Yeah.
But it's a lot worse than she can imagine, and there are much more overtly supernatural powers at play that start to reveal themselves as they seek to torment, torture, and ultimately control our protagonists.
So it also says that you also said in the blog interview that you're a Marine veteran too, right?
Yes, I was an 0311 infantry rifleman with 2nd Battalion,
Oh
1st
wow.
Marine Division Golf Company. I deployed to Iraq in 2009 and Afghanistan in late 2010 through uh, about just before Memorial Day 2011. If you Google the Battle of Garmsur and get on the wiki page, scroll down to Operation Godfather, I participated in everything mentioned in that paragraph. That was me and my unit. I was actually in Afghanistan. My last week in Afghanistan was the same week we got Bin Laden. Actually,
Oh wow. So when did you leave? When did you leave the Marines?
I was honorably discharged after 4 years. I got out in late October of 2011. I joined mid October 2007. I had accrued some leave that I didn't use, and I was 23 years old. I knew I was going to go to college come the new year, but I had like kind of like 6 months of dead time that I had no idea what I was going to do with. So I just sold that time back to the Marine Corps and just kind of stuck around playing video games in the barracks for an extra week or two.
Okay. So then like so you get free education and I've
I
for
like to
like
think I paid for it up front.
yeah, exactly. That's a better way to put it. Sorry. Yeah. I thank you for saying that. But it's interesting where I talk to a lot of veterans. Like I just talked to one, like I talked to a couple like 5 days ago, and it happens on like almost like a either like a bi-weekly basis. There's so many veterans who are getting into to the movies. Why do you think I always ask that question. Why do you think that's the case?
um, I think that that's a good question that I haven't actually really considered, but now that you mention it, so I did a year of school at Eastern Michigan University, where I'm from, but then I transferred to Columbia University in New York.
Oh wow, Ivy Leagues.
Yeah, if you ask anyone who knew me in middle or high school if Wesley was ever going to put himself through an Ivy League school, and they would have laughed at you and been like you mean Columbia the prison? But one thing that did stand out to me was just how many military veterans were in my like film classes or screenwriting workshops. Um, I was usually the only Marine, but they're out there, and I think I, I'm just kind of speculating here, but I wonder if it's something to do with when people join the military. A lot of the time, it's the first time that they've gone anywhere or done
Yeah,
anything. Most young people aren't super well traveled, and then you could find yourself going literally anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be Iraq or Afghanistan.
sure. The United States is everywhere, basically. The military is everywhere. Yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah,
Like post World War II world created, kind of this imperialist thing where like we are everywhere. Like
yeah,
our largest air bases abroad are in Germany and Japan. Gee, I wonder why.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Okay.
and so I think people, get these profound experiences that can be terrifying and horrible and dark, but also sometimes beautiful and um, novel, just unique. I think a lot of military people have the opportunity to see and experience things that no one else is ever going to, you
Mhm.
know. And I think that there are creative people everywhere, um, and for some of them, they want to. Movies are magic. Movies are spectacle, and so I think that they want to kind of give their perspective and
Mhm.
put
Yep,
their
their point of view.
experience
Yeah,
into that process. And we all watch like all the military people, especially the grunts. We'll be watching an action movie, with people, moving through a building with a rifle or something like that, and we're always asking ourselves like, do they ever reload? Or like if they're clearing a building,
yeah,
like me and my buddy who love watching movies together, who's also he was an army guy, uh will be yelling at the screen like, check your fucking corners, check your corners,
yeah,
like be tactical, and so I think
yeah.
there's like we have value to offer, and we're good at working in grueling adverse conditions with
Long days.
while
Yeah.
someone's yelling at you.
I
Um,
they people mention that there's a chain of command, there's a structure on movie sets too, right? Where everybody kind of knows their job, everybody has a responsibility.
yeah, I hope so. I've unfortunately never been on a big one. I've only
You're the
got
writer, yeah, yeah. The
on the
big ones. Oh my God, yeah. It's a well-oiled machine, right? So, and we all
oh
know who's in charge.
I read a lot about it, and I'm always fascinated, like with things like the theatrical release versus the director's cut. I just watched Ridley Scott's Kingdom of Heaven director's cut in 4K, and I loved the original movie, but there's an extra 45 minutes of runtime in the director's cut, and boy, they screwed Ridley Scott, man. Like, because
I'm surprised he. Well, I don't know, but I'm surprised he doesn't have final cut. Like he's someone like him. I'm sure that there's a certain time he in the contract he had to deliver it in a certain time. I'm assuming.
yeah, something like that. I
Yeah,
don't know how it works. That movie came out in 2005, and it had to have cost just all the money in the world. I mean, like everyone should go back and watch the director's cut, because you're going to see actors in it who are like real big names today,
yeah.
uh, who have just these tiny roles, but they're all over this movie. So I think it was just one of those things that was too big for him to have final cut. Like I feel like if a major studio is going to like give someone $200 million to make a movie, then they're not going to give them final cut just by virtue of how much money they've spent. Like if they spent 100 million, maybe they give them final cut, but I'm just speculating, but
Yeah.
I, I think Ridley is probably the goat. There's a
So
good,
you're like you said, you're a big movie junkie, and like yeah, this is a solid script. And I just before I want to also say that you've written children's books.
yes. So believe it or not, this is kind of, I believe firmly in the duality of man. So, believe it or not, yes, Necrotica is a very, very dark, very scary, super R-rated. Don't bring your kids anywhere near this thing movie. But I wrote and illustrated a children's book. I just signed off on the final proof for it last week. So I'm expecting it to go to print soon. It's called The Creepy Children's Book for Creepy Children. And it's just kind of an exploration and celebration of all the weird antics and shenanigans that kids get up to, kind of walking the fine line between, being a little creepy and being downright naughty. And creepy is something my parents always used to say to describe other kids, like
Yeah.
not like me and my sister, but they'd be like, oh, those creepy little kids, So that just kind of became part of my lexicon, and I did that. I've got two more on the way. The manuscripts are or poems, I guess, are all written. I'm still working on the drawings. But yeah, and on one calf, I have a tattoo of a chess piece and a rifle. On my other calf, I have a tattoo of a banana. So
Okay.
the Marine Corps, like the Marine Corps side, and then who I really am, like I'm at the end of the day, I'm just a
Yeah.
banana.
But obviously that what you experience is who you are, right? So that's very admirable. And yeah, and you went to school and now like so the screenwriting, that's your or writing in general, that's your passion and that's what you're looking to.
Yeah, the script has been doing very, very well. Horror Underground was the first one to announce that I won. Since then, I placed as a semifinalist in the finish line script competition, uh, and that was huge to me because that's a general competition, not a genre one. So my script was up against like dramas and family films and biopics and comedies and stuff like that. So I was very pleased there. I was a semifinalist at Genre Blast, and I'm now an official selection at the Oscars International Festival in LA, Oregon Screams, and Atlanta After Dark. I've got my fingers crossed and high hopes waiting for Austin After Dark, which should announce in the next couple days.
So you're obviously, you're doing something right.
Uh, it's 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 every bit as validating and wonderful as it is terrifying. um, uh,
That's honest. Yeah.
you know, I wanted so much to get into this stuff and work in this space. That I used to joke that I wasted a perfectly good Ivy League degree on film studies, because you know, like you still need money and you still need like connections and stuff. And my mentor when I was in school, the late great Guy Gallo, he was nominated for an Oscar for Under the Volcano in the '80s. He was a tenured screenwriting professor, and he was like the Robin Williams to my Matt Damon and Good Will Hunting. He took me under his wing,
Okay.
and we grew close. But he uh, very tragically, very suddenly died um, uh, late into my sophomore year, and the film program just like collapsed. The director of the program stepped down, or the director of the department stepped down, and it just kind of fell apart around me. I found myself. I graduated college in only 3 years because I went full time over summers, and I just didn't know what to do. I didn't get the good internships I needed. I really didn't like living in New York City, so I went back home, and spent the last decade selling my soul to the corporate world and slowly dying inside. And uh, I guess I'll get a little personal. A couple years ago, I lost one of my closest friends. No, like been best friends since we were like 5 years old, and he got very sick and died very poorly, and that really stuck with me and disturbed me. And I kind of took stock of my own life and values and how I was spending my time and how I felt about that time. And I realized that I didn't feel very good about it. And I always had all of these stories you know bubbling and festering inside me that just needed to get out. And with Necrotica, I had been tweaking and building and messing around with an outline for it, for really the better part of a decade. But I had never written a single page of actual script. I had this robust treatment, but not a single page of script. And last Thanksgiving, I sat down and just knocked out 147 page first draft in like a week or two. And I have just been focusing on that kind of stuff ever since. And I'm just hoping that the success that and recognition that I'm enjoying
Mhm.
can lead me somewhere good before I run out of money.
Gotcha, gotcha. So it's been 9 months, I guess, since last Thanksgiving. I guess it's around 9 months. That's pretty impressive.
Yep.
That's very impressive that you're like that you're here and yeah, and it seems like they thank you for your candor and death, like from my personal experience as well. Like when you lose somebody, it seems like you just talked about two pretty pretty intense deaths that you experience. It's like it kind of changes you. You go on a different path and it kind of puts things, not to sound like a cliche, but
Yeah.
it put things in perspective, right?
It can, and it can either crush and paralyze you in
Yes.
despair, which of course it certainly did at first. But and as you wallow in that darkness and start to think about your own life and stuff, you have a choice to make. You can either stay where you are, which is a bad place to be, or you just have to choose to take the plunge and do it. Like even if it feels like your legs have weights strapped to them, like you just like they like fake it till you make it, right?
Yeah, that's exactly.
But yeah, that's what I've been focusing on, and I love it. I love it. Like it hurt. Like writing kind of hurts, but it also feels very good when I'm in the zone. I kind of go into this very what can only be described as a manic place. And I wrote them so quickly because I'm like I had good outlines. I knew exactly what I was doing. But I would write for 10 to 12 hours a day, like not eating, like not sleeping
Mm.
much, but like looking forward to doing it every day, and just that, and getting like annoyed at anything else going on because it just needs to get done. And I got just kind of so high on it that I once I finished Necrotica, I wrote a whole another one that uh, I also really like that hopefully everyone can be talking about next year.
Well, keep writing. This is fantastic, and I wish you the ultimate best of success. It's a really solid script, and
Yeah, you guys read the 120 page draft, I believe,
yeah,
uh, and right now it's sitting at 106 pages
okay,
with like less fat but way more meat. Like
that's
I
that's
got I
good.
I got deep into it. Like
Yeah,
there's more of what you like.
exactly. Yeah, it's like yeah. I was gonna say like the steak analogy, right? When you go to the butcher and it's like, oh yeah, exactly. All right, man. Well, congratulations. Let's talk again when we showcase another script of yours or when this script goes beyond. Keep in touch, and I'd love to hear what you do next.
Outstanding. Thank you very much.